Hello, once again, everyone. World Combat Sports. This evening topic will be, speaking of Burmese boxing, the Lethwei Burmese Boxing. We already know we're in the COVID-19 crisis and everyone is basically locked down for a certain period of time. So, World Combat Sports is going to continue speaking about different areas of combat sports in general. Tonight, I want to speak about the Lethwei Burmese Boxing. If you come in the building, please smash the thumbs up button. Leave your responses in there. And we definitely, we as it being me, myself, and I, we would definitely get back with you and respond to your comments throughout this portion of the broadcast. You know what I'm saying? What's so unique about Burmese boxing, man? Hey, first and foremost, it's one of the most brutal martial arts you'll ever experience in your life. For those of you that may have been a part of martial arts in general, full combat, mixed martial arts, even Krav Maga, just hand-to-hand combat in general, that most of them exclude certain strikes in tournaments. If you ever fought tournament-based martial arts, they exclude certain strikes. Like Taekwondo is mostly feet. You can punch, but mostly they are basically enamored of how many kicks you can land, how you land your kicks, and so forth. And then karate, you have punch kick combinations, roundhouse kicks, heel kicks, whatever you want to do. But mixed martial arts, we already know, according to what organization, what country you fight in, most of the time you can fight on your feet, off your feet on the ground, and elbows, punches, kicks, anything possible that you can use against your opponent is legal except the head. All right. You can even use your shoulders. I know a lot of people have seen Conor McGregor use his shoulders recently against Cowboy Cerrone. He's not the first to do it. John Jones have used, that shoulder strike. You see that shoulder strike in boxing sometime where the opponent would just push the opponent off to create space and then hit him with a hook or a straight punch, whatever. In Burmese boxing, it's considered the art of non-limbs. And like I said earlier, the art of non-limbs includes your head. All right. You are allowed to headbutt your opponent. Think about that. Think about headbutting your opponent. So you have 2 feet. Your feet are allowed to strike. Your knee are allowed to strike. That's 4, right? Your hands are allowed to strike. That's 6. And then you break it down using your elbows. Any which way. You can use step in. You can use cross from 3 to 9. 9 to 3. It don't matter. 12 to 6. It doesn't matter. And also the 9th limb is going to be your head. Now, the good thing about this sport, way back in traditional Burmese boxing, it was done in the sand. So it probably was much difficult to move around. And then you take into consideration of the bleeding aspect of being cut open by all these strikes. And also, being in a sand pit, a sandbox or whatever, and getting sand in those wounds too. I mean, it's a brutal freaking sport, man. When somebody walks up on you and just say, the first thing they do is headbutt you in the nose or the cheekbone or the mouth, it's going to hurt tremendously. The rules to Burmese boxing is unbelievable. They have a unique set of rules, people. A unique set of rules. But first of all, before I get into the rules aspect of Burmese boxing, I'm going to take you to a video and show you about, I'm going to show you about a match, however you want to call it, a contest of some Burmese boxers. And no, the first guy that you see isn't Luis Collazo. I know they look alike, but they're not. So I'm going to show you a quick video of a portion of a Burmese boxing bout, Lethwei. And then I'm going to come back and talk to you about some of the rules that they have in this particular martial arts. Look at the way he's closing distance with those step-in elbows. Those are traditional, you know, the dance to the rhythm, just like Muay Thai fighters. And if you look at their hands is only allowed electric tape, gauze, and this is without gloves. So it's considered bare knuckle, but not exactly to the knuckle properties being totally naked. Brutal kicks. Nice cutting, slicing elbow, using it like a jab or a hook. It's amazing. See, a bout like this has to be fought close distance to gain the favor of the judges. And notice how they throwing caution to the wind, man. They have to have some tough hands to do this. Like, they're not pulling the punches or anything. The guy in the red seems to be throwing power punches full speed to the top of the cranium. You know what I'm saying? His hands has to be filling, or he might have, you know, knuckles that's acclimated to this type of fight, man. This shook that off. Oh, nice roundhouse kick, barely missed the top of the cap. So something else to note about these fights are it can either be 3, 4, or 5 rounds. Speaking of the old school, the traditional Burmese boxing, right? It's 3 minutes per round and 2 minutes in between. 3 minutes per round, 2 minutes in between. A lot of respect between these two fighters. So what I wanted to do is kind of show you how that all works. I'm going to try to find another fight that was a bit more brutal than that actually implements the headbutts. Let's go over a little bit of rules about Lethwei, okay? Myanmar Lethwei Burmese Boxing. Some of the rules are, let's start off with the rounds. It can be 3, 4, 5 rounds. Like I said, the 5-round fights are championship fights. All right. The rules of this fight, the strikes which are legal are punches, knees. All right. Elbows, knees, hook kick, roundhouse kick, elbows, spinning elbows, and also headbutts are allowed. Those are the techniques in Burmese boxing. That's what makes it so brutal, the headbutts, because it opens up an opponent. I mean, I'm pretty sure they lose some teeth, break some bones, and all of that, right? So, internal to this fight, what considers a knockout? Traditional, the only way that you can win one of these fights is that you're knocked out. What's considered a knockout is if you land on your back or you land on the canvas and you're knocked out, right? Also, you land on the ropes and you're unable to stand, or you're unconscious and so forth, or you're in such a way that if the referee allows the fight to continue, it'll be detriment or harm to you. So this is how it works. You are allowed 3 counts in one round period. 3 counts consist of somewhat like boxing, a 10 count. All right. That 10 count is much different than boxing though. If you hit the mat on in Lethwei, right? They count a 10 count, 1 second, 1 count per every 2 seconds. 1 count per every 2 seconds. So that means 1, 2, whatever rhythm the referee has and how they practice that is 1 count every 2 seconds, which is a 20 count, but it's considered a 10 count, but it's a 20 count. So that's one of the rules over there in Burmese boxing, right? So then you look at it in this perspective too, is that the fight itself, if you indeed is knocked out and you receive a count, it's only 3 counts during 1 round. If you receive 3 counts during a round, it's considered a knockout stoppage. That's the rules. The fight has to be won via knockout. Now, the one caveat to that is if your fighter gets knocked down, or you the fighter, you get knocked out or whatever, and your corner deems it necessary that you need more time, they can basically ask for a timeout. And you're saying to yourself, how in the hell can you get a timeout during a boxing match? A fight like this? Well, the timeout is allotted as a count. So just say you already been knocked down before and you received a count from the ref, which is what? A 20 count, right? So you're hurt so bad again in the first round, you need a 2-minute timeout. Now the rounds are only freaking 3 minutes apiece, and it's 2 minutes in between the round. So therefore, you take this 2-minute timeout. That counts as one of the counts. You only allowed 3 counts. So that'll be your second count for the entire freaking round. You only allowed 4 counts per the entire fight. So if your fight is 3 rounds, you only allow 4 counts total. Those counts are the 20 counts of the knockdowns. Now, you get your 2 minutes and you resume action. You're only in the first round and you already have 2 counts against you. Second round comes around. You get knocked down, you need a count. Guess what? You can get a count. That's going to be your 3rd count. All right? You only allow 4 counts. So if you're in a 3-round fight and you get 1 more, it's considered a knockout and a win to your opponent, even though you're still conscious. If at the time you get knocked out and you're unable to basically get up, basically you're unable to get up. It's basically one of those deals where they consider you getting knocked to the canvas and you're unconscious as a knockout. Even if you recover, it has to go to 8. If you up by the count of 8, it's still considered a count. You know what I'm saying? It's still considered a count. So therefore, you get dropped and you land on your back, or you land on the ropes, or you're in such bad condition. Either one, your corner can call a timeout, or you can just resume action or whatever. But yeah, you only get 4. You only get 4 per the entire fight. So just look at it this way: the fight continues, and in the old school way, if no one is knocked out, knockout once again mean if you scored 3 counts in a round, or if you was able to score 4 counts in a fight, that's considered a knockout. Or even if your opponent is absolutely unconscious. Now, the one good thing about this is in Burmese boxing, they're pretty the crowd, the judges, they're pretty much one of those fan bases that want to see action. Like in a fight like this, it's hard for you to just dance around on the outside. In Burmese boxing, man, you have to have aggression. You have to land strikes. They grade you on drawing blood. That's one of the things that they look at, you know what I'm saying, and trying to determine a winner in this day and time of fighting. Because I haven't even got to it yet, but the rules have changed from traditional to modern rules in Burmese boxing. So you have 3, 4 to 5 rounds, and 5 rounds of championship fights, right? But check this out. You cannot have a 2-minute timeout in the 5th round of a fight, which is considered the championship round. You cannot take that 2-minute timeout. You cannot. You can have a 2-minute timeout from the 4th round to the first to the 4th, or whatever. But if it's the 5th round, you cannot use the 2-minute timeout, which is very beneficial if you're hurt, right? So what's so important about this particular martial arts is that a lot of people in life have never been headbutted before. Like, I'm pretty sure some people that play football, they've been hit with a helmet. It's according to where you grew up at, but in street terms, a headbutt is rarely used because it's just not your first go-to strike. But if you're talking about a headbutt that is implemented into the striking game, a professional striking, lethal striking game, it can be crucial. Because for one, they can headbutt you right here on the nose. They can headbutt you on the lips, the chin. Also, with the headbutt, you have to think about other strikes too. So if they come in with an elbow and then headbutt you while you're hurt, it's only going to get worse from there. So it's quite a defensive role that their opponent have to play, along with the offense. An offensive guy, he can land some strikes, but also the defensive guy can counter too. It's not like the defensive guy and both opponents can't land headbutts at the same time. Can you imagine that shit happening? You know what I'm saying? A step-in elbow with a headbutt and your opponent is thinking the same thing. Boom. There's a headbutt. Both fighters go down. Both fighters get a count. That's how that works. Both fighters can get assistance from their corner to take a timeout if they both are knocked out. That's what makes this sport so brutal, because a fighter can be in a bad place and still be able to go to the corner, recover, and then go back out there to fight again. Because the rule of thumb is a bout is not considered a win until somebody is knocked out. And, just as I told you, a knockout consists of 3 counts per round, 4 counts per the entire fight. And if a fighter is unconscious, or whether it be on the canvas, on the ropes, or the condition of the fight is so bad to the point where the referee has to say, you know what, it's too much for you to continue. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I like the striking technique of Burmese boxing. If you look at the old Pride days, the old school MMA days, you know what I'm saying? Even if you look at the UFC 1, you look at the old school, when they were still trying to figure out the weight class and everything. Eye gouging and biting. Eye gouging and biting was the only 2 strikes that wasn't allowed. You know what I'm saying? You can headbutt your opponent. But in Burmese boxing, it's the technique that makes the art so lethal. Like you just seen on the video, these guys step in with certain types of elbows, kicks with elbows together, punches with knees, flying knees, spinning elbows, a lot of techniques that you see in mixed martial arts today, but you won't see a headbutt. And you know what? A headbutt is a game changer. Just think of it this way. Imagine if you're watching mixed martial arts, right? And you have 2 guys who's on the ground, one on the bottom, one on top, and the guy on top lands an elbow from the top position and then headbutts the guy when he's hurt. Could you imagine what collateral damage is going to be done if that fighter is getting headbutt when he's hurt from an elbow? The fight is going to be stopped. The fight is going to take tremendous amount of internal damage from that headbutt, because believe it or not, the front of the head can take a lot of damage. As you just seen Joanna versus Zhang, Joanna looked unrecognizable. You know what I'm saying? The mass of her forehead had transformed, had mutated, you know what I'm saying, into something we rarely see in mixed martial arts, especially in women's division. The whole mass of her forehead has swelled up. So can you imagine the Burmese boxers and what they go through and what they endure with these strikes, cuts, swelling, you know, fractures, internal injuries? It's just unbelievable, man. I'm trying to find this other fight. Of the old school. I want to watch the old school Lethwei. Let's see if this is it.
Dans notre crew, il y en a plusieurs.
Y'all be patient. This is one from the old traditional Myanmar traditional Lethwei Burmese boxing. Look at the crowd in there. Man, hard ass shin kicks, man. This is definitely not a sport that you're going to work on your boxing. They're trying to kick each other head off. Now, of course, this sport right here cannot be a sport that you're going to be in for a long period of time. It's just too much punishment with no gloves on too. These guys are just swinging on pure adrenaline, will against will, heart against heart, man. And a lot of boxers and MMA mixed martial artists, they probably looking at this like, you know what, why don't they just, create space? But the way to this sport is aggression. Look how he charging in with double elbows right there. Clinching and throws are accepted. It's legal. Clinches and throws are legal. Overhand elbow by the one in the white. Straight left. You guys are swinging. So if you've seen in there, it is wow. It's the OK Corral for real. Like it's some discipline in there too. In order for you to stand in a fight like that, you have to have some type of discipline and toughness, period. I mean, the throw kick, shin to shin kicks like that, man, you have to be on a whole nother level of training, you know, especially your body, deadening the nerves in your shin. Everything that they do in Thailand, Japan, all these foreign countries, even over here now. But I'm just saying from what I experienced on how they deaden the nerves in their forearms, shins, elbows. It's just amazing. Let me try to find another fight that I can show you dealing with Myanmar Lethwei.
Upwork has the world's largest network of proven independent professionals. It's like having a go.
So look at these headbutts right here. This is actually showing how they lunging in with their head. The top of their head, of course, because it's the toughest. Lethwei. Kick to the ribs like nothing. Clinches and throws, like I said, illegal. Headbutts on the inside. Brutal. What I like about this sport too, how they get in close and land those lower thigh kicks, calf kicks. Straight right to the head. That had to hurt. Referees checking the damage. Look how many people in the stands. Would you want to fight that intense with that little people watching you? It's barely anybody in the stands. It's almost like the COVID-19 freaking blackout. Look how he got the Muay Thai plum a little bit, you know, in the clinch. The one in the blue. I mean, the one in the red had the one in the blue. This is a damaging fight. It has to take at least about 3 or 4 weeks to recover from this. I'm still waiting on some spinning technique. They just doing a lot of boxing, kicking, headbutts right now. See that solid kick on the outside leg kick? That shit is brutal. Wild striking exchanges for real. Look at that knee on the inside. Very nice. Right to the rib cage, man. That's technique. Right to the rib cage. Not the hip bone, not the thigh, straight to the rib cage. Lunge in with the head to the jawline. Man, that shit hurt. Another headbutt on the inside. Missed with that right elbow. This is brutal. This is absolutely a brutal freaking sport, man. Man, he shot another headbutt on the inside. Stunning. You notice how they are headbutting. It's not just straight from 3 to 9 headbutting straight forward. They are ducking, bending at the waist almost, and lunging in with the top of their head. Part of the art. How long you think it'll take you to recover from a fight like this? I mean, you're talking about a goddamn month, at least, minimal. The cuts, the bruising, it'll take forever, man. This is a brutal sport. The referee called the fight. And rightfully so. Dude was in a bad place, man. And that was one of the if you remember what I said, that was one of the rules to a knockout. If the referee deems that it's too harmful for you to continue, he can call the fight and it's a knockout. He wins. Traditional rules have now placed judges, you know, to look over the fight. The reason being is that they have tournaments. They have Burmese boxing tournaments. So therefore, if they're getting draws like the old traditional system, it's difficult for people to advance in a tournament. So therefore, now the judges are gonna grade you on strike exchanges, aggression, punches landed. If your opponent, who's the more bloody opponent, they really show favor in the person who's doing the damage. That's absolute fact. M. Craig say, where's everybody at today? Bruh, I don't know, but you know, the show must go on. They probably didn't get paid that much. I don't know, man. I couldn't tell you. But appreciate your attendance, man. Thanks for dropping in, supporting World Combat Sports as always. I'm trying to find one more fight for y'all. This is the Burmese Boxing, the Myanmar Lethwei martial arts. One of the most brutal martial arts that you will see. If you wasn't in here earlier, pretty much it can be a 3, 4, or 5 round affair. The rules to this is 3 minutes per round, 2 minutes in between the round. Now, if a fighter is engaged in battle and is knocked to the canvas, it's considered a count that you will receive. Or if you're knocked out to the point you're on the ropes, unconscious, and you can't defend yourself, it's considered a count. Or if you somewhere like if you have a cut or whatever the case may be, and the referee deem that you need a count, then you get the count. The process of the count is 1 count per 2 seconds. So it's considered a 20 count. All right. It's considered 1 count per 2 seconds, which is a 20 count. Traditional old school rules where you couldn't win the fight unless it was a knockout. That means the fight stopped or you knocked out. You know what I'm saying? You're unconscious. But the technical rules are if you receive 3 counts per round or 4 counts the entire fight. If you receive 4 counts during your entire fight, whether it be 3, 4, 5 rounds, it's considered a knockout. And you know your opponent deemed the winner. That's how it works. And once again, the striking techniques that are used can be kicks, punches, of course, punch kicks, elbow, punch knees, elbow knees, spinning elbow techniques, roundhouse kicks, hook kicks, flying knees. Pretty much a lot what you see in mixed martial arts today, but you include the headbutt, and also you can clinch and throws are accepted. It's brutal. This is the last fight I will show you. This may be more so a modern fight. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not sure why people want to bring their lady friend, your girl, your woman to a fight like this. I'm not sure, unless she's a fighter herself and she's cool with it. But this is a brutal sport for your girl to be chilling ringside. I truly don't know. And she's sitting right there in the corner. I wouldn't recommend that. But I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. Spinning technique right there, you know, landed, you know, pretty decent. You see how the modern Lethwei is a bit more technically distance gauging with strikes rather than the old school all out exchanges, a brawl type of manner. This is more so setting up the strikes just a little bit more efficiently, you know, staying away from damage. Nice sweep.
After taking my credit score from a 5.
That wasn't too exciting of a Lethwei bout, but I'm pretty sure you get the picture. You know, the martial art itself, it just includes so many strikes for it not to be a brutal sport. You're talking about leg kicks, throws, you know, sweeps, punches with elbows, you know, punch kick combinations. It's just a brutal sport that you will have to be fully aware of, and you know, having defense to block those strikes. And the recovery time, man, I can't imagine what the recovery time is for this fight, especially in a tournament. You think about going into a tournament with this fight and trying to take less punishment as possible. You're talking about everything from headbutts to elbows and knees and all that. And then you win, you have to see if you healthy enough to move on to the next freaking fight. And go to that fight, you're going to take more damage. You know what I'm saying? It's just a brutal freaking sport to think about. Let me read you a little bit about Lethwei right quick. On the modern day Lethwei, how it's changed is those rules took place in 1996, right? It says for the inaugural Golden Belt Championships, the 2-minute injury timeout was removed. So they removed the 2-minute timeout, which in traditional way, you can use it throughout the fight. Only if it was in a championship fight, you couldn't use it in the 5th round. They removed it, and the judges were added ringside. The modified rule set helped prevent the outcome of a draw and helped choose a winner to advance in the tournament. Former fighter was the most successful in the Golden Belt Championship history, Wen Tong. I have won 4 golden belts. In recent years, the World Lethwei Championships, Myanmar's first international promotion, is the biggest proponent of the modern rules in the order to follow international safety, keyword safety, and regulation for combat sports. So a lot of foreign countries even that's used to this brutal sport are used to how it's applicable to everyday life when they compete. It also is being placed in a setting of safety and regulations. It had to tighten up, you know what I'm saying, in order for it to continue to grow, because it's a lot of organizations that was pleasing the fans that was used to seeing blood and everything. But if you only have a certain set of fighters to fight, They can't keep coming back in there. You know what I'm saying? You can't continue to grow the sport outside to a larger audience if there's no regulation, if there's no safety. And in this particular case, there was no judges before. So now they had to include judges just so the fighters and the promotion and everyone can have a freaking tournament. You know what I'm saying? If they continue to get draws from two tough individuals, right? They get draws. How's the tournament going to move on? You know, how is it possible to determine a winner? It said that the judging, the knockout is still highly desired under the rule set. But in the event that a bout goes the distance, judges will present a decision. The three judges scored a bout based on aggression, number of significant strikes per round, damage and blood drawn. Fighters have maximum of 3 knockdowns. That's the 3 counts I was talking about, 3 knockdowns. And 4 knockdowns in the entire fight before the fight is ruled a knockout. So that's pretty much, you know, my takeaway on Lethwei, Lethwei martial arts. The art of 9 limbs is just an incredible sport that individuals can compete in, and you have to be cut from a different cloth altogether. From head to toe, you have to be cut from a different cloth to compete in a sport such as this. To get headbutted, to train your body to even take a headbutt like that, to take elbows from all angles, you know, being able to clinch, sweep, throw, do basically any strike you can imagine while in the clinch. That's stuff you have to prepare for. You know, you're talking about being in the clinch, taking punches and elbows and headbutts. It's just a whole nother world of defense that you have to be concerned about. Brutal sport, absolutely malicious, bad intentions, destructive. And, you know, shout out to these guys, man. They're a whole different layer of combat pugilists that you rarely get to see unless you're over in that country or you tune in to, you know, the fights. And like I said before, the modern day Lethwei is much different than the old school Lethwei. And once again, the 9 limbs is considered the head. The 9th limb is considered the head, the headbutt. That is the 9th limb. Next, I want to talk about one of the guys that I considered, for his height and size, considered one of the most dangerous men in combat sports, outside of having a bona fide gym to train out of, outside of having a legitimate background or pedigree to train in mixed martial arts, man. This guy was one of those guys that, you know, he was blessed with total chaos. I don't know, you know, how he was born, what he experienced in life, but, you know, what his parents was, I don't know. But wholeheartedly, you know, you think about a dangerous individual, you think of Charles Bennett. Charles Bennett, his entertainment in the combat sports world, let me tell you, for a guy like that to put on like he did for the fans, especially when he was in Japan, to be able to have the wins that he had, and then look at his record, and you're like, how can somebody have a record like that and still be respected? You know what I'm saying? You have to take in consideration the wars this guy's been through. And of course, on the back end of his career, he was kind of pretty much fighting because he had to fight. But I just want to give a shout out to Charles Bennett. Like I told you earlier, I did have the opportunity of having an encounter with him and hoping to get an interview, because he does some crazy ass interviews. But I guess, you know, he wasn't in the mood, because I'm an old school dude and I grew up off the old school Crazy Horse. And look, I didn't think it was a big freaking deal to address him as Crazy Horse when that alias still fits him. Like, he's a crazy dude. He's chaos in the ring, man. So his name was Crazy Horse, Kid Chaos, and now it's Felony. All of those together means trouble, right? All of those together means trouble. But when I addressed him when I was down in Florida, I said, what's going on? I already knew his name was Felony. But you know how some people say, okay, you have an old school name, and that's what people remember you from. So you say, hey, what's going on, Crazy Horse? And then you say, that's not my name. I mean, I know who I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with a fighter. He's been through a lot. He took a lot of punishment. The dude is cut. Look, the dude is built different. You know what I'm saying? The dude is, his whole thought process is different. To be that size and have that much power in what he does, his athletic ability, he's a different type of cat. So when he told me what he told me, he said, no, nigga, you ain't getting no interview. You know, the interview over. I was like, okay. You know, it ain't nothing I ever heard. You know what I'm saying? But check this out, though. You want to know Charles Bennett's record? You want to know his combat record? This is going to trip you out. A lot of people don't know this. A lot of people say, well, I ain't never heard of the dude. Who is he? You know, he has a record of 30 and 41. 30 wins, 41 losses, y'all, and 2 draws. Yes. You look at fighters like Cowboy Cerrone, you say, man, he has a lot of fights. You know, there's a lot of fighters that's in the UFC and in mixed martial arts, period. Only select few that has a lot of fights like that. But this guy has 30 victories and 41 defeats. 2 draws. 2 draws, y'all. One of his most infamous fights leading up to it, I still remember this day, is when he ran into a fighter who was a boxer turned mixed martial artist who had some pretty decent skills in KJ Noons. But the real hype to the hardcore mixed martial arts, you know, collective fans was the beef that he had with Wanderlei Silva, the Shoot Box Academy, the Shoot Box School, the Brazilians. And the only thing I didn't appreciate, you know, about the way Wanderlei handled the situation is that if you have all these guys and they're tough guys in your group, why single out a guy who's much smaller than everybody in your group? He has a how you put it, a rambunctious behavior. He's athletically gifted. He's strong for his size. He's one of those, what you call a stick of dynamite waiting to explode. That's what Charles Bennett was. But also when he calmed down or whatever the case may be, he was just that guy. He was cool or whatever. He was chilling. But what I couldn't understand about Shootbox is they had all these guys with them, and they was pretty much going in for one guy. So Charles Bennett, being from the place he was, he didn't accept none of that shit. Like, he was like, I'm about it, period. I don't care how many people in the room, I'm about it. So let's get to it. I want to show you what the whole myth is about. And I'm going to tell you point blank, did it happen? Did he knock out Wanderlei Silva? And, you know, it was a point in time when I saw Wanderlei Silva in the same place I saw Charles Bennett. And I was like, damn, I wonder if they're going to, you know, cross paths. Are they on better terms right now? You know what I'm saying? I would have loved to see that. But also the situation that was out for a long time in the MMA community is, did Charles Bennett sleep Wanderlei Silva? Did he indeed? I always wanted to know that. And I found out the truth behind that, because it's a lot of rumor mills that goes on in sparring, the gyms and everything else. So let's get to this, people. You know, enough of me talking. I want to show you a video of one of the most infamous beefs that you would ever see in mixed martial arts. You talking about a person, I remember when this shit was all going down in the video. We didn't even have the phones and shit back then. Like, this is recorded camcorders. which was taken. The Japanese officials had to extract the freaking camcorders because look, if they would have shown Wanderlei get knocked out, then it would have messed up a fight that he had going forward. So that's why you don't see any video of Wanderlei Silva being knocked out. But you do see video of felon Charles Bennett laying in there just being submitted. And I'm going to get to it. I don't want to tell y'all the whole freaking show, but hold on for a second. Let me pull this video up. Which one do I want? Okay. I'm gonna go to the first video, the craziest MMA fight on YouTube. And hey, don't get it twisted. Charles Bennett was more than just a crazy MMA fighter.
100. They all have one thing in common.
So I'm gonna let this go by right quick. Skip ads. This is Charles Bennett, y'all, aka Felony. That's how he used to act when the instructions was being read. We're gonna get to this fight right here with him acting like this. It's the reason why he's acting like that. This is what made him famous too. You know, the way he was playing to the camera and then dropped old boy up against the fence.
Y'all make sure that nigga ain't acting up.
What's up, y'all? This is a man who I've been wanting to do a story on for a while. One of the craziest characters in MMA, Charles Felony Bennett, formerly known as the Crazy Horse. He lives up to his name in every aspect. Now, most of you know who Charles is, and some of you do not. The ones who don't, you're in for a real treat. Born in Gainesville, Florida on November 23rd, 1979, Bennett lived with his mother for the first part of his childhood until her arrest on a drug charge in 1985. He then moved in with his father in Ocala. He would eventually drop out of high school and turn to dealing dope. He was then arrested for aggravated robbery when he was only 17 years old, but the case was dropped. Then in 98, he was charged with cocaine possession, which got dismissed as well. In the same year, he was arrested again for cocaine possession and also for intent to sell, grand theft, and holding less than 20 grams of pot. Between 1999 and 2009, he was arrested 14 times on crimes for selling cocaine, burglary, and aggravated battery, and possession of MDMA. In between one of his jail stints in 1999, he saw a newspaper ad for an MMA gym in Ocala. He signed up and began training. The coaches could not believe how strong and fast he was. Charles was gifted with great athleticism, being the black sheep in his family, even being a very good running back in high school football. Once he began training and learning, he would make his professional debut when he was 19 years old in 1999, and a legend was born. Bennett would make his debut in Georgia in 1999 and lose via submission, but his next bout he would then win via knockout due to a slam, which would be one of his trademarks in fighting in the cage. He would then make his debut in World Extreme Fighting promotion and face future UFC veteran Rich Clemente, and lose due to strikes. Now, at this time period in MMA, Rich was actually very good.
Yep,
and
he was.
beat a lot of very good fighters. He would then sign with King of the Cage, which later on he would credit the turnaround in his life to King of the Cage owner Terry Trebilcock Jr. His debut was not
The
easy.
hardcore MMA fans know who that is.
UFC veteran and TJ Dillashaw coach in Dwayne Ludwig. He would lose in the second round due to exhaustion.
I'm going to fast forward this a little bit.
Then win
this guy, this is what I want to get.
King of the Cage bantamweight championship fight.
This is what I want you to see. The
future WC champ and UFC veteran, who you all know, Uriah Faber. Now, by this time, y'all are asking, what makes this dude so special? It wasn't necessarily what he did in the cage, but his antics and what he did outside of the cage as well. He would come back to Pride, but this would be where he would make a name for himself among the MMA.
So speaking of the Pride, right? This is the organization back in the day for the hardcore fans who tuned in. They was the ones who, you know, the rules that you can kick a downed opponent straight in the head with a soccer kick. It was basically open rules. You know, no hitting in the crotch and freaking eye gouging or biting. That was about it. But some of the most infamous freaking fights that you can ever watch on YouTube is from Pride, man. And it made Charles Bennett a legend in who he was able to defeat over here in Pride.
Community. Now this is where legends come from. Bennett would make his next appearance in Pride Shockwave 2005 against Ken Kaneko, winning by armbar. But this fight isn't what would make him a legend in the sport. It's what happened after the fight. Bennett had talked a bunch of trash about legendary Shootbox Academy and its main fighter, Wanderlei Silva. Although, at the time, the coach for Ken...
Now, I want to stop it right here. You see Wanderlei. You see who Bennett has. He has nobody. This is old school. Like, he's sitting back there. He just finished fighting. And I just don't like the way, you know, you're going to have a group of people back there from the Shootbox Academy, which is highly respected in the world of MMA. But it's just the fact that the man just finished fighting. And no matter if he was talking shit about Wanderlei Silva or not, the man just finished fighting. So one of the team members are up there and they jarring back and forth. He's talking shit to Crazy Horse. He's really not even basically in the verbal sparring match before. But this guy wanted to be famous. Of course, back then, you know, a lot of the shoot box and the Brazilians, they deal with freaking fighting and jiu-jitsu. And I'll let you see the rest and what made Charles Bennett the infamous one.
Was one of the Shootbox coaches, and he says that he wanted to challenge Bennett to a fight. The coach for Ken was one of the Shootbox coaches, and he says that he wanted to challenge Bennett to a fight. So, for you to understand how reckless this was to talk about Wanderlei like that, Wanderlei was unstoppable at the time. He's a juggernaut of violence. He mainly fought in middleweight, but he would also fight heavyweights and win. He would be undefeated in Pride for 5 years, looking unstoppable.
And Wanderlei was a beast.
Now, after the bout, Bennett was confronted by Cristiano Marcelo. Bennett would then...
Cristiano Marcelo, right? So if you're looking at Wanderlei, right, the reason why he's not engaging because he has a fight coming up, y'all. He has a fight. That's why he's over there stretching, warming up and everything. He's letting this boy do the dirty work.
Attacked Marcelo, taking him to the ground, swinging wildly before getting put out to a triangle choke. Now, after this, it's claimed that once Bennett woke back up and got his wits about him, he then knocked out Wanderlei Silva. Later on...
Now you see they're in the curtains. And if you're looking at the guy on the ground was the same guy who's standing up talking. Jiu-jitsu in full effect right here. But you're speaking on the guy who really didn't have a jiu-jitsu background. He's just a street dude, very tough at what he does. And the guy already has a a setup for a triangle already. His guard is high, and also he has the right arm hooked around the leg to stabilize Bennett from going anywhere. It's a lot of things could have happened right here. He could have swept Bennett and gained top position, but you know, them Brazilians, man, they love working off their back. It's a braggadocious thing to do in jiu-jitsu. You know, he's calm. Bennett's trying to land shots on the dude, but more so, it's just a wild melee at this point.
Matt Lindland would later confirm this in an interview, saying Vanderlei kicked Charles. Charles got up and knocked him out cold. The crazy thing is that if this did happen, Vanderlei
he almost did the
would
ankle
later
pick
go
right
on
there.
to defeat Ricardo Arona the same night.
Let me go back.
Vanderlei kicked Charles. Charles got up and knocked him out cold. The crazy thing is that if this did happen, Vanderlei would later go on to defeat Ricardo Arona the same.
Ricardo Arona. Anybody who knows that name, that's a tough dude. And if indeed, and where it's fact that he got knocked out, it was confirmed by Matt Lindland that Vanderlei got knocked out, but the Japanese officials and commission or whatever, they took the video camcorders that was back there and they edited it. So that's why you don't see Wanderlei being knocked out. They basically, I believe, what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? They basically not confined it, but they just retrieved the camcorders to the end of the freaking fight card, and then they hand it back to him with the footage edited. Of course, they didn't want the axe murderer going in there being knocked out in the back and going in there and getting hurt by Arona, so they kept the footage and gave it back.
Night.
And this is 05, people. This is when the axe murderer was the one that was chopping off heads. Dude was a problem. This is going to take you through the whole process of when Felony was subbed out from that fight. And the guy that's in the blue shirt standing up, he threw the first punches. Bennett about that life, man. That man just finished fighting, and he's still going in there against a guy who he knows that's highly schooled, highly trained in jiu-jitsu. That's shoot box we talking about. He's not even trying to pass the guard. He's just all about chaos and mayhem right now, Bennett. The shots are really not doing anything. So now he has a triangle choke. He's in deep waters right now, deep waters. And he went to sleep easy. You know, he pulled his head down. He sleep. He sleep.
The story. I'm gonna break it down because I have a few friends here.
This Charles Bennett just lounging, chilling in a hotel somewhere with some friends, and he's gonna tell his side of the story on what actually happened that night.
That one day I'm gonna go train with them really soon. Hope you guys don't mind. But we're here to set the record straight. As you all know, this is Kid Chaos, no longer Crazy Horse. But I'm here to set the record straight about this Vanderlei.
Did y'all hear that? He's no longer Crazy Horse. He's Kid Chaos. So when I spoke to him, I called him Crazy Horse. So I was 2 alias down. I already knew his name was Felony, but I kind of grew up off Crazy Horse. You know, that's who I remember. And, you know, he took offense to it. Moving on.
Situation. Okay, Vanderlei, you and I don't know. We're not gonna say this is unfinished business. We're gonna just say this is finished business. I'm gonna tell my side and fuck what you guys say because this is the truth. Okay, it all started after I beat Ken Kaneko, which was, I don't know, I beat him with an arm bar. All right, that guy Christina got in the ring. He was like, oh, you know.
Did you hear he say he beat him with an arm bar? This is a guy with hardly any ground game. He did train, but he, you know, this is talking about a street dude who already knew how to fight, had the basics of, you know, that aggressive mentality, the savage mentality, you know, shit that you can't teach really. And to have the level for which he did and to know how to train just a little bit and learn different submission games here and there, he still wasn't considered a high-level jiu-jitsu guy.
I'm gonna kick that ass, and I was like, whatever. I just wanted to fight, so I'm kind of celebrate. Got that young, so you know what I mean. I go back to the locker room because me, Vanderlei, and Josh Thompson all share a locker room, 3 of us. So I'm back there, and Cristiano was like, "Oh, pretty much he was talking shit," and I'm telling him, "Get Yukino the second fight up. I don't fight for free. I fight for the money. You know what I'm saying? I fight for the Yannies." He's like, "Oh, whatever." So he walks away. So when he walks away, I look at him and I smile, you know, like big smile, you know. He comes back and he's like, oh, motherfucker, you think I'm gay or something? So if you notice on the fucking footage that's on YouTube, I stand up and I rush in on it. But that's not really happening. I stood up. Christina got a couple of cheap shots in his quote unquote, we call it.
Christina's the guy who was standing up, you know, kind of instigating or antagonizing the situation with Charles Bennett at the time. He was the guy in like the blue shirt. So that's who he's talking about right now.
America, cheap shots. I slammed him. You guys see all that? Yeah, of course the nigga put me to sleep. I just fought. Of course, I'm tired. You know, guys know I wasn't training at the time. So after that, as I demonstrate how all this happened, right? I'm out cold. Part 2. I'm out cold. You guys see me, open my eyes, look up, and at that time, Vanderlei was kicking my feet. So when I look up, Vanderlei is kicking me. So I look up, there's Vanderlei kicking me. So I grab my jacket and say, nigga, I ain't scared of you. And I hit Vanderlei, boom. No lie. Vanderlei turned, fell, out. Now, why?
Now, what makes this story so amazing, he dropped and put to sleep Wanderlei Silva, who was considered one of the most dangerous men who had a 5-year win streak over there. Like, he was undefeated. This dude was a dangerous dude. Wanderlei Silva by no means, man, should ever be considered less than what his reputation consists of in the world of mixed martial arts and in Brazil itself. So for Charles Bennett to get up from being slept in a triangle choke, to grab his jacket and knock out Wanderlei Silva before his fight with Ricardo Arona, it's just legendary type shit outside of the damn ring. I mean, the shit that you just hear, you like, what in the hell? Like, this dude is undersized. Like, Charles Bennett was undersized. Wanderlei had fought from middleweight on up to freaking, what, heavyweights? Continue with the story.
Vanderlei is out. It's a group of us, a group of 8. This is the part you guys do not see.
the craziest backstage story you have?
Oh, I got a great backstage. Oh, I've got a bunch of them, but
Tell as many as you want. I love them.
Well, there's probably some that shouldn't be aired, but I think probably the craziest.
That's Matt Lindland.
I ever saw was
Very tough fighter back in the day.
Crazy Horse knocked out Wanderlei Silva before Wanderlei fought Ricardo Arona.
Really? So you saw it happen?
Yes.
Wow.
I witnessed the whole thing.
Matt Lindland said he saw it happen. Why did he have to lie? He said he saw the whole thing. He saw it happen. Lindland just gave his side of the story. I'm talking about at that point in time. He vouched. He validated. He confirmed the rumor. And when Lindland confirmed this rumor, a lot of people was like, oh shit. You know, Charles Bennett is an absolute beast, man. For him to wake up from being subbed, put to sleep from a submission, to get up and grab his jacket and swing on Wanderlei Silva, who had a fight coming up. It was just something of legendary proportions, man. I'm not even gonna lie to you. In the MMA world, that's just crazy.
Yeah, I was sitting right in the warm-up area.
Well, that's...
And somebody did have a tape of that at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know the Japanese were ripping tapes from everybody that had it. It was kind of right before phone cameras too. So the people that had them on the video cameras.
Uh-huh.
You know, phone cameras haven't been around. It seems like they have forever, but they really haven't been around that long. But yeah, that was a pretty interesting story. When I saw Crazy Horse jump up after he just got kicked by Wanderlei and knock him out cold. Then he went out and fought Ricardo Arona after that. That was a pretty good story.
Well, that is actually that's really crazy story, because that is a big controversy. I don't know if it happened years ago, or it was rumored to happen years ago. There was some.
Everyone knows it's important.
Bennett would later make his last appearance in Pride Bushido 11 against Shudo lightweight champion Tatsuya Kawajiri and lose by knee bar.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there because I want to get to another infamous moment after the fact that he dropped. After the fact that he had that moment where he was subbed in the locker room, and then he dropped Wanderlei Silva. I want to take you to the moment where he brought on Minoru Kimura, right? Minoru Kimura. He brought on this fighter who was attempting to transition over to mixed martial arts or whatever. He's a kickboxer, K1 kickboxer, and very good at what he does. He is. Kimura was very good at what he does, man. So he was representing the shoot.
Well, I think it's a good idea not having Wanderlei in the corner. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know what's going to happen.
So I'm going to fast forward this a little bit because he's going to take a long time to get in the ring.
I'm kind of excited. This is like going back in time. Got to be some extra motivation right now for Kimura to have his idol there, Wanderlei Silva.
So Charles Bennett is already in the ring, people.
And the one thing about Kimura is, Charles Bennett, he's a joker, he's an actor. Yes. He's funny. Yes. Listen, Kimura wasn't having any of it at the weigh-ins. No. It's like, what is this guy doing? This guy's acting like a clown. We're here to fight. We're here to square off. And, Crazy Horse with a K is hilarious. Kimura's really hammering up right here.
So he's taking forever to get in the ring, soaking in the moment.
This is what Ryzen wants. They want.
He's doing the plum. Once again, typical vintage Wanderlei Silva.
I think Wanderlei's about ready to jump in the ring, buddy.
He gets in the ring, goes over there to Charles Bennett, and Charles Bennett is flicking him off.
I think that's an international sign. Yes. To interpret that one. He's saying you're You're number one.
Yeah.
You're number one.
Ichiban.
Here's
Ichiban.
I'm going to give you two number ones.
Okata.
Here we go. Here the youth advantage going to Kimura this fight here, but the experience in mixed martial arts is obvious. Over 60 fights.
Yes.
To Charles Bennett.
Over 60 fights, y'all, like I mentioned earlier. Listen, if you've never been to a Japanese fight, man, and Rise and Pride, man, it's just amazing. The announcers. This is typical Charles Bennett right here, y'all. Talking in the camera. Vintage freaking Charles Bennett right here. He said he remembers.
For those that don't know, thankfully in the podcast,
he's basically telling the camera and the viewing audience and those watching, he remember. He isn't Wanderlei Silva, remembers. And if you look at Kimura's, man, he seems a little nervous to me, real talk. Like he knows he's in there with a killer. You know what I'm saying? And Charles Bennett's like talking to the camera and say, he remember when I knocked him out.
or at least he nearly fell off his chair. Crazy horse was saying,
You remember I knocked you out. You remember as Wanderlei Silva is making the international slit throat sign in the corner.
This ain't gonna last long now.
Oh, that's it right there.
Watch this. It's not better than Alvarez and Justin Gaethje, but goddamn it, dude is athletic. 7 seconds, y'all. 7 seconds. Now check this out. Check this out, y'all. This is how deep my combat sports annals is. At this point in time, the only other person that had a faster bout in MMA than Charles Bennett versus Minoru Kimura is, it was what's his name? Just Jonathan Goulet and Dwayne Ludwig. Yep. Dwayne Ludwig knocked out Jonathan Goulet with all the multicolored hair in 6 seconds. That was the only fight that was out there that was faster than this at the time. Not until Jorge Masvidal knocked out Ben Askren in 5 seconds. Facts. Facts, people.
After was trying to set up something versus Charles Crazy Horse Bennett. Bennett stepped off and obviously caught it and realized, you know what? Take this.
This is one of the craziest post-fight interviews. Oh my God, this shit is just hilarious. They're letting him stay up on the top rope to do a backflip. When you stop somebody like that in 7 seconds, they let you. They say, why not?
Unbelievable, this guy.
Unfortunately, Heath Herring, I do not have a seatbelt to strap you down into your chair, but you can just imagine what Charles Bennett is about to say when that microphone is given to him.
And here we see it. Just the
Look at the punch, man. Oh, boy's about to throw a flying knee, man.
Lights out. Kimura was trying to set up a flying knee.
Oh,
and,
lights out.
Oh, yeah. That hurt. Just come down with the hands down.
Bennett say, "No, I'm in the streets. You catching these hands
The
today."
way he was pacing himself, looking to do something. Crazy Horse.
And this
wanted something to do
dude,
with it.
Minoru Kimura, man,
Fight over, and immediately
he's like 12-2 in his career, man. His only loss is against another guy in K1. He only has one loss in K1, and this loss to Charles Bennett in his professional career. He just fought last year. Look at Charles Bennett.
Uh-oh.
Man, y'all about to crack up. Watch what he has to say, man.
Well, thankfully,
Listen carefully.
Minoru Kimura is okay. Obviously dejected.
Minoru Kimura. Konnichiwa means hello in Japanese. Hi, konnichiwa.
I like to say, I would really like to thank the Japanese people and the riding organization. Man, the celebration was more work than the fight.
He said the celebration was more work than the fight. That ain't it though. Wait.
Hey, thank y'all for having me, man. Y'all know I miss it here. Y'all know I miss it here. This is real love out here. The Japanese people always showed me real love.
That they do.
What I just did for you guys. I returned to face 7 seconds. That's the quickest paycheck I've ever made.
He said that's the quickest paycheck I ever made. Nobody got to gozaimasu.
Where's Candyland?
So now he's calling out Wanderlei Silva. He's called out Wanderlei Silva and his boy. The one that jumped him. There go Wanderlei right there, but he's.
You know what happened in 2005.
Oh my.
That's why you're still salty. That's why you still want to try to get some with this. But you can't get none with this unless we put it on contract. We put it on contract, then you can get some. And other than that, every time your big, steroid-head ass see me,
watch this.
And I wasn't fast.
Man, y'all didn't catch that, man. He is absolute fool, man. Let me go back.
For the record, you know what happened in 2005.
Oh my.
That's why you're still salty. That's why you still want to try to get some with this. But you can't get none with this unless we put it on contract. We put it on contract, then you can get some. And other than that, every time your big, steroid-head ass see me, I'm a nigger, and I wasn't fast.
This dude right around the ring, man. He's a fool, dog.
There have been legendary moments that have occurred in Japan mixed martial arts.
It was legendary, though.
But
he called him mid-flight, 7-second knockout, y'all.
This moment in mixed martial arts, and it continues to always happen with Creator Charles.
Man, hey, I'm gonna end it there with him. Man, that was hilarious, man. For real, that was a legendary moment. And Tony Burgess, shout out to you too, man. Keep it going, man. We see you out here. You know what I'm saying? I look forward to coming up there one day and covering one of your amateur cards, man. The one thing about that fight, as much as I wanna, let me see something right quick. Let me see if I have it. Nope, that's not it. It's a video that's out there also with after that fight, Wanderlei Silva, after that fight where he knocked out his boy, when he was coming back there with the trophy, Wanderlei tried to fight him in the hallway and they had to break it up. That's how much Charles Bennett irritated and got on the skin of Wanderlei Silva. When he was walking back from celebrating in the ring, Wanderlei was already back there waiting on him. This time he didn't have his boys with him. It was a lot more security. You know, Charles Bennett has just won a 7-second match. Like I said, the only one, if you look back, 6 seconds was Dwayne Ludwig. You know, you know the little history between him and Team Alpha Male. Dwayne Ludwig was which is a respectful mixed martial artist. in his own right, stopped Jonathan Goulet, who had all the multicolored hair back in the day and was on the rise or whatever. Dwayne knocked him out in 6 seconds, man, with a straight right hand. Counter off the back foot at that. Man, I want to show y'all this last video. I have to show y'all this last video, else, you know, it'll be an injustice. To finish this up. I think this is it right here. I think this is it, y'all.
And when they open, Vanderlei.
Nope. Let me see. Yep. Yeah, this is it. Okay, let me go back. This is it. I forgot I had it saved. Good. So this is the end. This is the end state. This is the end state.
It counts out.
I'm gonna forward past that.
That's good. Here.
So that's Charles Bennett in another area.
I knocked you out. I slept you. You sleep. Yeah. I knocked your pussy ass out. Me, the little guy.
Goddamn Charles Bennett ain't backing down. You know what I'm saying?
You out, baby.
Imagine a dude that small. It happens. A dude as small as freaking Charles Bennett knocked out Wanderlei, man. Wanderlei. The axe murder, much respect though. Look, this is him coming back from that 7-second knockout. He stops right there and he sees Silva right there. These guys ain't playing.
Don't touch me. Come here. Give me here. Charles, go. Give me here. Charles, go.
Vanderlei Silva's about that smoke though. So is Charles Bennett.
I still win, man. I still win, man.
Watch this closing.
Now make sure that nigga ain't at the door.
That's vintage freaking Charles Bennett right there, man. Real talk. That's vintage, man. For him to have that beef with Vanderlei Silva, man, it's just unbelievable. That a guy that small had that much punching power and dropped a legend like Vanderlei Silva. Vanderlei. Still, he's a legend of the sport too, man. You know, a lot of people remember him from the beating that he put on Rampage Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Quinn Rampage Jackson and a lot of other people. Ricardo Arona. I mean, he's been in there with some heavy hitters. But this particular fight or beef that he had with Charles Bennett, you know, only was on the end of a knockout. They never stepped in the cage together, but they did have encounters, as you've seen, out in public in the hotels or whatever. And the good thing is that when he was walking back to the room and Wanderlei was in the hallway, he recognized him immediately. You know what I'm saying? So that's when I back up a little bit from what I was talking about earlier, is that when I seen him in the same area that day down there in Florida, when Wanderlei was there, you know what I'm saying? Vanderlei was in the area. You know, he was there. So I could have thought someone's going to pop off there, you know, down there in Florida. And it didn't, you know, but I know he had 2 fights at Bare Knuckles, right? Charles Bennett. He has had 2 fights there and lost both of them. Of course, you know, he's fighting because he has to. It's been well documented. You know, he even said it himself. But, you know, he's not the fighter that he was before. He's in his 40s now, but still a tough dude. And, you know, shout out to Felony. You know, shout out to him. But I have that video on my hard drive. You know what I'm saying? I do. I have that video, but it wasn't something that I chose to put out there like that, because people wouldn't understand if I was walking up on somebody that I followed the sport back then and know who he was, that he would take an alias. So, I don't know, personal, just because Crazy Horse, Kid Chaos, and Felony, like they all consist of the same thing. Like there's some type of rowdiness, you know what I'm saying? Dysfunction, you know, chaos in all the names that you're talking about right now. But I guess he felt some type of way about it. But that's the combat sports world, man. That's the combat sports world, real talk. Well, people, that is what I have for the day. Once again, appreciate you for stopping through. You know, I was talking about Myanmar, Lethwei, you know, the Burmese boxing and all the freaking striking techniques that it consists of. Just another facet of combat sports. I definitely study other facets just so I can have the knowledge and understanding of how boxing, mixed martial arts, all the history of these combat sports blend into one another in one way, you know, one way, shape, or form, right? So I would never be a media person to just talk about strictly boxing. Like I can't sit up here and talk about the Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder situation every freaking day and just come up with different topics to talk about the same shit. You know, I've talked about Mr. Carefoot. You know, I've talked about, you know, the potential ramifications that may come from it. You know, if UCAD tends to investigate the situation, I talked about it already. I talked about the glove situation. I talked about the fight itself. I talked about, you know, Tyson Fury, you know, and the history he has with this, that, and the other. I did it. But also there's other fighters out there in the sport of boxing all over. There's other fighters out there in mixed martial arts. So hopefully you understand and respect the depth for which I'll talk about combat sports, because it's definitely going to be that way. I'm never going to be strictly about boxing. I'm never going to be the one to be strictly about mixed martial arts. It's definitely all these fighters need, you know, the exposure, the airtime and everything. I'm not talking about every fighter that's fighting on the grassroots you know nothing about. I'm talking about fighters that are basically on the mid-level to high level, and they out here. You know what I'm saying? We should talk about it. We definitely look forward to seeing these fighters whose bouts was canceled due to the COVID-19. You know, like the Joshua Greer Jr., he's supposed to face Jason Maloney. That's been off. Shakur Stevens supposed to step in there and face Miguel Moraga. That was canceled. And then, you know, you have a postponement also potentially. We don't know yet. You know, through my sources, the fight has been canceled on the surface, but not internally yet. They're just trying to wait and see when they're going to lift some of these restrictions that's going on with COVID-19. But it's, you know, Teofimo Lopez and Vasily Lomachenko. That's a fight that we want to see. And from what I'm hearing right now is that the venue is still up in the air. It's been difficulty with Team Lomachenko in a sense that he doesn't really want to have the fight in the backyard of Teofimo Lopez. We all know where that backyard is, right? So that's a big deal. And also you have the grand poobah of them all, you know, the trilogy between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury that's, you know, scheduled to come up really soon. And that potentially may be pushed back. If indeed that's pushed back, that's only going to give more time for, you know, Deontay Wilder to sit up here and find out what he needs to improve, get in the gym and work on it, and then come back to the freaking squared arena and get that green belt back. You know, get that WBC title, be two-time world champion. That's the whole point of it. Two-time world champion, and that's what it's about. So hopefully you enjoyed the back end of my broadcast speaking about Charles Bennett, you know what I'm saying, aka Crazy Horse, aka Kid Chaos, aka Felony in the building. Salute, man. You're a legend. You know what I'm saying? I mean, your career has not gone at the highest point all the time, but for the hardcore fans, man, you're a legend of what you do, man. You know, being a guy with not an extensive background in your mixed martial arts prowess, you did great, man. You was in there with some individuals that you definitely weren't supposed to be. And still thinking about that KJ Noons, when you stopped KJ Noons, I mean, it was just amazing. And then your beef and history between the Shootbox Academy, it's just unbelievable. You know, the person that'll go up there with some crazy Brazilians at the times, well-respected Brazilians. And for him to be back there in the moment by himself without a group of dudes and still throw down and put them hands on, that shows you how tough Charles Bennett was, man. He was an entertaining fighter. He was very entertaining. I just wish, you know, people understand a person that has over 60 fights, y'all. 60 freaking fights. And yeah, he has a lot of losses on his record, man. He has 41 losses, but he has 30 victories, man. You got to give a salute for that. I mean, because in mixed martial arts, you can have a dozen losses and still be respected. In boxing, they consider you a bum. That's what it is. You know, that is exactly what it is. But people, enjoy your Monday. Hopefully everybody is doing well and staying above the canopy of disbelief, man. The cloud, the COVID-19 cloud, man, of restriction that's placed upon us as a general public. I hope everybody's doing great. I hope your family's well, kids, you know, if you're in a relationship or whatever, married, whatever, I hope your relationship is tight, bonded even much tighter during this crisis. Hey, it's tough. It's tough. Boxing, look, this right here is not only affecting businesses, but it's affecting the sport of boxing to the point where you may not see some of the fighters that you may have seen on the grassroots or even professional level after this. You may not see them again for a long period of time because it's a lot of fighters are struggling. Just like Coach Santos said earlier, man, he dropped some nuggets. He dropped some jewels on y'all. You know what I'm saying? How the fight game goes behind the scene. It's educational, man. You know, that's why I wanted him to come on here, since he does have the downtime. He's been in the sport for over 20 years. The man is very knowledgeable in handling fighters. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Coach Santos, man. Appreciate you for dropping through today. Real talk. Shout out to, you know, Dominique Francis, man. I had the pleasure of interviewing that young warrior that's on the come up. He's undefeated too. Very talented cat, man. And remember that I told you, keep an eye out for him, man. He's coming up through the ranks. He's on the regional level. He's a very talented fighter. He's Trap Francis, but his name is Dominique Francis. Look him up. He's a very exciting fighter to watch, man. You want to talk about technically discipline? That's that fighter. So shout out to Brian Norman too, man. He was on one of the last telecasts that happened with Showtime. He ended up winning his bout with Flavio Rodriguez too. So shout out to Brian Norman Jr. He improved his ledger to 17-0. That's what it's about, man. He's out of ATL down here, aka the Assassin. So shout out to him and his team, man, and his pops. Until then, man, y'all follow me on all social media, man. Subscribe to the channel. Don't be strangers. Tune in, man, for this boxing media. Turn up and tune in to World Combat Sports.